Good day, everyone. My name is Ambassador Richard Inyamkume, your host for today on the Climate Connect Nigeria. Welcome to Climate Connect Nigeria on the 5th episode. Climate Connect Nigeria is a platform that we discuss the intersections between climate change, the society, and the environment. And today, we'll be looking at a very interesting topic, which in the previous episode, the anchor had already introduced us to that topic. And it's about mitigation, climate change mitigation. Usually on this platform, we explore a lot of areas ranging from biodiversity and green conservation, the economics of society and climate change, urban and regional town planning, and all aspects of society that intersect with climate change, looking at the impact it has on society, on humanity, on resources, on species, as well as trying to get solutions for the complex problems that climate change poses to mankind. So today in the studio here with me is a distinguished scholar, a climate change advocate, and an advocate for sustainable living. He is no other person but Mr. Abe Simeon. Welcome on this show today, and I'm sure that our audience will have a lot to learn from you, because we will be discussing climate change mitigation. Oftentimes in the discourse of climate change, the conversation is always around mitigation and adaptation, and the two of them go hand in hand. Of course, most of you already know what mitigation is. The word, tries to describe a situation whereby you try to reduce or lessen the impact of something on another. So climate change, as you already are aware, is beginning to take negative tolls on families, on communities, on society, on systems, on institutions. So today, you will be able to discuss that climate change mitigation, which is all about talking about approaches and actions that we can take to reduce emissions of greenhouse gases, which are driving or accelerating climate change towards achieving a possible reversal. Now, in the studio today, Mr. Abe is here with us, and Mr. Abe will be able to, delve into the conversation around mitigation. So, Mr. Abe, considering that climate change is already affecting the world, society, and there is ongoing conversation around technological innovations and the need to change lifestyles, can you please provide for us examples of recent advancements in technology that are already making significant impact on society, as well as can you also discuss with us how individuals can change behaviors and also be able to complement the technologies that are available towards mitigating the emissions of greenhouse gases that are accelerating climate change?
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for playing host to me this morning. Thank you, our viewers. Before I answer your question, I would like to explain in brief what mitigation is. Mitigation, by mitigation, I refer to conscious or deliberate efforts targeted at reducing or minimizing the effect of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Having established that explanation from the what mitigation is, I will be addressing your question as to the role of technology and human behavior in addressing the issues of climate change. There are so many technological advancements that has spearheaded the cause of climate change mitigation. Like you have mentioned in the course of your introduction, there has been conscious efforts to produce innovations that we put together the combination of human efforts to reduce the impact of climate change. For instance, the technologies I'm going to mention, I will be making reference to renewable use of renewable sources of energy. These energies, use of solar-powered energy, solar wind powered energy, and also hydroelectrical power energy in place of other sources, ancient ways of generating electricity that we know. Secondly, I'm also talking about the exports, renewable power energy batteries. For instance, we have the lithium-ion batteries and the flow batteries, which have come to replace the ancient lanterns that we use in our homes that produce a lot of black carbon, produce fumes which were very detrimental to human health. As we have in Nigeria today, we have seen a lot of solar-powered batteries and energy searchlights that are used in our rural homes. These are the innovations, some of the technologies that have been welcomed into our countries and are widely used by our rural populace. Next to one of the technologies I also want to mention is the use of smart agriculture. That is the combination of innovations in agricultural production, where the use of regenerative agriculture and agroforestry has come to replace the crude ways of harvesting species from the trees. You see recently farmers are beginning to adopt modern technologies like agroforestry, where seedlings are combined with tree species to cultivate lands and also boost agricultural production. I will also want to be mentioning the use of electric vehicles. Technologies have made it possible now that fuel-powered or fuel energy-powered vehicles are discouraged. There are electric-powered vehicles and solar-powered vehicles that have been used today, and I'm very happy that our country and a lot of persons in our country are beginning to adopt these technologies. This will gradually phase out the emission of greenhouse gases and also support or also alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians and most of the rural populace. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Simeon. I think this is quite interesting to know that there are a lot of technological advancements that are beginning to make us consider how we can move from the traditional or crude approaches to consumption of energy. I know you just mentioned solar or renewable energy, which you said from solar, wind and hydro. I think also there is geothermal, energy, and most of these ones are renewable energy sources, and oftentimes they help us to, regenerate the energy. So the source is not a depleting source, rather it is a regenerative source. This sounds very interesting. And quickly, you mentioned around something about electric vehicles. I've been somebody who is very interested in electric vehicles. Recently, I've been reading around countries that are trying to adopt 50%, of their fleet, trying to change their transport systems to modernize them, to become more of a mix of electric and other renewable energy sources. Do you think Nigeria is also transitioning on that path, whereby we will be having electric cars to mix with our transport systems? And also recently, the federal government is talking about CNG, the introduction of CNG. Do you think these are things that Nigeria can also adopt in our transition journey towards mitigating emissions?
Yeah. Like you have mentioned, and I also mentioned in the course of my discussion, it is already in use. But what the government needs to do at the moment is to encourage private investors and also encourage regulation of policies that will encourage private or developed countries to further invest in the use of sustainable and transitioning to clean mobility structures. The cost of fuel is not longer friendly, and government on its part is also battling with subsidy, which is also a challenge to the government. Encouraging the private sector and the private business owners to sustain or invest in clean mobility structures and renewable energy is one of the major benefits that will not longer alleviate the pains on the government of taking huge responsibilities of paying palliatives for citizens. It will also help the government to also reduce the emission of greenhouse gases by 50%, such that when these buses are, the use of electric vehicles are encouraged, or solar powered vehicles or motorbikes are encouraged, 50% of the roads will be decongested, whereby people will also park their vehicles and begin to use most of these vehicles that are provided by government, which are also powered by solar energy or electric powered means. So a lot of persons will begin to use commercial vehicles, and this will go a long way in alleviating the suffering on the part of the individuals as well as the government. So I think it's one thing government you also embark on, what government you also take it serious in collaboration with both the private sector and the government agencies that are responsible for management the transport sector.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Abe. I think this is quite interesting and informative. Something came to mind rightly when you mentioned those technologies like clean energy, renewable energy like solar, the photovoltaic cells and the lithium batteries and all of that.
Yes.
Something came to mind. Can you also discuss and let the public understand the natural carbon sinks that are available? Because I know that while we are doing technology, it's also good to understand the natural means of capturing carbon or sequestering carbon from the atmosphere. I don't know if you can throw light on approaches that are nature-based in terms of what can we do to mitigate climate change in terms of natural sources. I know a lot of people go about doing tree planting. I don't want to, go ahead, but I just wanted to throw light on the natural aspect. Recently, I also heard that a lot of scientists are promoting carbon capture mechanisms for rocks,
yes,
whereby carbon is captured from the atmosphere and stored in rock. But I know that is a technological one. Do we have local or nature-based approaches which community members can adopt locally, in terms of the agriculture and the environment? That any areas you think you can throw light on?
All right, thank you very much. Today we're talking about climate change mitigation, and all this while we have been centering on technological means of mitigating climate change. Like you have just mentioned, there are also natural means by which climate change can be mitigated. The carbon sequestration you have mentioned is one of the natural ways of harvesting or arresting carbon in the atmosphere. One of the methods of carbon sequestration, like we are discussing, is through use of land use, or regenerative agriculture or afforestation. Through afforestation or through the natural forest, carbons are absorbed into the soil, and also through rocks.
Crops, yeah.
Carbons are also
And also
absorbed,
wetlands.
and also wetlands
Yeah.
like Fadama areas. These are areas that naturally serve as carbon sink,
Yeah.
and they absorb carbon from the atmosphere naturally into the system, thereby minimizing the amount of greenhouse gases.
Yeah, sorry for
in the
interrupting.
atmosphere.
Someone even told me that I think oceans also
Yes.
help to
Oceans also
capture.
contribute in capturing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere,
Yes.
thereby reducing its content or percentage in the atmosphere. So these are the natural ways by which we can also absorb carbon. In the course of my discussion, I earlier mentioned the introduction of the renewable energy and clean mobility structures. It is also important to see as a natural way of absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Government on its own part also try to conscientize and also place incentives to farmers to see that they go into tree planting, because trees serve as a natural means of carbon absorption from the atmosphere. So when farmers are encouraged through the government's incentives, they can also go a long way in also cultivating or replanting trees in our depleted forests, or forests that have been cut down as a result of man-made activities. They will naturally use this means. Government is providing incentives to also replant our fields and also make sure that we have abundant trees there to harvest carbon dioxide from the air naturally.
Oh wow, thanks so much. That I think a lot of people now know that from what you are saying, that the natural or nature-based solutions to mitigation could also be tree planting. It could be regenerative agriculture, promoting sustainable agricultural methods crop rotation, mixed cropping, and introduction of trees in the farm, so that they help in sequestering carbon from the atmosphere and it goes down. That's a very nice way. One thing again that has been worrisome in many communities, and it's an area of interest to me, is the volume of waste. And scientists have said that waste also is a contributor to climate change, that waste emits methane and some greenhouse gases. Is this true? And if it is true, what do you think that communities can do as a mitigation approach to waste, such that it helps to take waste from the landfills? Someone said that a lot of waste now can be transformed into energy sources. And one of the reasons why people cut or fell trees from the forest is because they want to use it as a cooking energy source. Is there anything you want to throw light on to show how waste can be used to support energy needs as well as mitigating climate change?
All right, like you have said, use of animal farming, which has been a common and traditional means of farming, seems to be most efficient and effective in rural areas. In as much as this is cheap and affordable, research has shown that secretion of animal dung has contributed to about 50% of the emission of CO2 from the decomposition of these animal dung. So, like you have said, these animals too also contribute. So it is also a discouraging factor that, in as much as it is a cheap means of tilling the soil, it is also a disadvantage to the ecosystem, so that it encourages the production of CO2 in the atmosphere. Recently, it has been discovered that this animal waste can also be converted into clean and effective sources of cooking energies in our homes. These animal waste can also be converted to clean cooking energy sources, in as much as also waste from plants and animal dung. This can be transitioned or converted into means of cooking, like briquette making. This can be useful to us in our homes. So government should invest too much in these areas, into providing trainings to locals, and also means of technological means of converting these animals waste into clean cooking energy sources in our rural areas and in our homes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Talking about the briquettes, recently I participated in a program whereby community members were trained how they can use agri residues, to transform it to briquettes, and they call it charcoal briquette. It goes through a carbonization process, and then in the end, they mold it in form of briquettes, similar to the type people use to smoke shisha. Those small charcoal.
Shisha pots.
Yeah, so those little charcoals, I participated in a community training where they have helped them to convert rice paddy husks, granite bark, coconut shells, and other agri-related waste, and they transform it into briquettes. And the communities are already deploying that as an alternative to charcoal that is gotten from falling trees, so thereby reducing waste burden from the landfill, and also because the briquettes do not produce emissions, it's also a mitigation approach. So that's very nice, and thank you for sharing that knowledge. Another aspect I would like you to quickly highlight before we wrap up the session will be that of lifestyle. I know you have mentioned around policy. You have also encouraged investment. Of course, when we're talking about mitigation, it has to go all around talking about policy frameworks for, regulating as well as encouraging incentive-based programs that will make people invest in mitigation technologies. So I'm looking at, we're talking about policy investment. Let's talk about behavioral change. Most countries are already transitioning to better societies, and one of the approach is they're talking about awareness. Human mind should be aware, because even though there is presence of green, or what they call it, renewable energies, there is a presence of smart agriculture and smart and clean, efficient energy consumption. If the people do not change their mind and begin to adopt those new things, I don't think it will really translate into any appreciable or positive impact. So can you talk about briefly about lifestyle changes? Do our people recognize that, for instance, if the government provides smart buses that are driven by maybe electric sources
or solar powered,
are the people willing? Do you feel Nigerians are willing to leave their cars and fly through the bus transit systems, so that by doing that they reduce the number of vehicles on the way, and reduction of vehicles on the way translates to reduction in carbon emissions, and so it will help to mitigate climate change? So do you feel that you can highlight few lifestyle changes that people need to do, from food consumption to material use to waste and all of that? Do you think you have one or two things you can say?
Yeah, I think tailoring our discussion towards behavioral change has to do with awareness creation on the part of government, civil society organizations, and public policy makers. It has to do with the orientation and the mindset of the people. Like you have mentioned in the course of our discussion, it has to do with the policy framework and regulations about the use of clean energy and clean mobility. First of all, government must make it a law that people should use these clean mobility structures, and
if they are available.
There are, because as we speak presently, as we speak, the economy of the country is between government is battling between fuel and also subsidizing fuel to the rate that movement will be assessed by everyone. So if government will come out to show example, first of all, government needs to also realize that they have to also abide by this policy by also using these clean mobilities. Government should demonstrate.
I was going to come to
government
that.
should demonstrate one by acquiring vehicles that are solar powered,
Yes.
either solar powered or electric powered. First for commercial, for government use, and also
then for
compare
public
the public and the
yes.
private sector to also invest in the use of these clean mobilities. One, we are talking about the behaviors, our attitude of humans. We need to also understand when the laws are made so effective, there is no class or category of persons. By this, it will discourage people from buying generators or other sources of dirty sources of energy that will also be contributing to greenhouse gases. But when government make it a law, the agencies of government who are responsible for awareness and sensitization of the people will take these messages to the people. And I believe if government take a cue by leading a way to use these clean mobilities and these solar energies made available and enforcing the laws and policies on the people, there will be a change. And also the attitude of people, the behavioral attitude of Nigerians or humans particularly, by not economizing energy, by the time we begin to resort to renewable sources of energy, we now know it's our responsibility to put off the energy bulbs when they are not at use, and to also make sure that the solar batteries are off when they are not at use. These are certain behaviors that contribute to wastage, and because these are public sources of energy, they are generated. Nobody know how the government come about it. The pain is not on anybody, on the locals. So they feel they can use all kinds of appliances on this electricity. But if this is made a law and individuals begin to adopt these sources of energy, one, there will be the consciousness on the part of the individuals or the citizens to preserve and also conserve these sources of energy. Like we also mentioned, we should also desist from habits of engaging in habits that will encourage waste littering or waste laundering in the society, because the principle of use, reuse, and recycle will also be, first of all, encouraged by the government, so that biodegradable materials are produced. Companies that are into production of products will now know that it's a law in Nigeria that we should use biodegradable materials that are that will be liable to decomposition. This will encourage and will also promote the behavioral change, and will gradually shift away from encouraging behaviors that will promote, rather increase emission of CO2 to a better society where we will encourage the reduction of greenhouse gases.
Thank you, Mr. Abe. So if you've just joined us now, we are on Climate Connect podcast, which is a platform that discusses the intersections between climate change, society, and the environment, looking at it from various lenses, from the economic, the biodiversity, conservation, urban planning, and all of that. So today we have been discussing climate change mitigation, and in the studio we have Mr. Simeon Abe, who is taking us through the journey of mitigation. So right now we have discussed various technological advancements and strategies, and including lifestyle changes and behavioral changes that are all geared towards mitigation. And interestingly, Mr. Abe has highlighted the areas of renewable energy, sustainable and smart agriculture, and we are talking about other aspects of waste and behavioral change, which can all help us to cut down emissions as well as our carbon footprint. There is an aspect that I wanted to add quickly to what you just said, the aspect of policy and legal frameworks. One thing is that government can bring policies and frameworks, but also government also have a responsibility to ignite or lead the action. If you're teaching somebody how to fight, you first do that by demonstrating, investment. So first of all, we need government to demonstrate a commitment to transition from dirty sources, especially if it is in the area of clean mobility structures. We need to see visibly that our road systems are improved, the infrastructure is improved. For instance, now there is an opportunity for us to tap into bicycles, electric bicycles, electric scooters. And all of this in terms of the clean mobility structures. How many states, how many local governments are already working on the transition plan? Is the federal government also looking at it? Whereby those who want to use electric bikes now can take you a whole 9 hours, some take 7 hours, and if you have it, it will lessen the burden on the vehicles, the fossil fuel driven vehicles. So a lot of people can transition to using e-scooters and all of that. So it's also an area that I just wanted to quickly add. So I don't know if you have something else to add. Otherwise, I was going to ask you a final question and we'll close for the day. And it's a very simple question. I wanted to ask you that, in your own opinion, what are the most effective strategies for balancing economic growth with climate change mitigation? That is, how can businesses and governments work together to achieve a balance? Because businesses are out to make profits, and the government is also out to make life better for the people. So can we bring models that while people want to make profit, they should make it in a sustainable way? For instance, how do we encourage the importation of renewable energy components against, or when you match it with dirty emitting sources like generators, so that somebody sees that, if I am into business of solar importation, maybe, for instance, the government is granting tax holiday or something that will stimulate people to invest in such business. So what do you think are the most effective strategies for balancing economic growth? Just one or two, and we'll
balancing the economic growth in the country to the government and the business or private sector has to involve secure a multifaceted approach. I think the private sector and the government needs to collaborate and develop strategies that will encourage setting clear policies and regulations. And these policies goes down from importation to use and also availability of these clean and renewable energy sources we're talking about. There's also the government need to develop a sustainable supply chain that will encourage private business owners to go into the purchase and supply of these renewable energies and clean mobility structures. Like we also stated earlier, there should be regulations on import and exports, such that it will encourage countries that have advanced in use of clean mobility structures to come in a way to aid developing nations like Nigeria to advance their campaigns or advance their desire to engage in the use of these clean mobility structures. So both the government and the private sector, they need to collaborate, develop strategies that will support investment in clean mobility structures.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Simeon Abe. It has been a nice time having you on the Climate Connect podcast, which is powered by Ambassadors of Dialogue, Climate and Reintegration, DCR Ambassadors, which is a civil society organization advocating and promoting sustainable lifestyles and a green transition in Nigeria. My name is Ambassador Richard Inyaptume. I'm your anchor today on the Climate Postcast, and I trust you enjoyed the conversation, and you will be part of the transition of Nigeria from a dirty, emitting, fossil-driven economy to a clean, efficient, reliable, and sustainable economy. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next episode. Bye.